Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody's doing well and has had a good first half of their week, and for you folks in the United States, which is most of you, I hope you are looking forward to Thanksgiving, which I believe starts tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoy your family time together and have a very nice extended weekend as a result. And don't eat too much turkey. That's all I'll say. You know, you got to save some space for turkey at Christmas, right? So, yeah, make sure you do that, folks. Yeah, Thanksgiving. We don't celebrate that over here in the UK unless you are an American expat to the UK, in which case I have a lot of American friends here in the UK, and yes, they all celebrate most of the United States public holidays, albeit they are not public holidays here in the UK. So for, most of them, they will have to work instead of being off for the day, or whatever it may be for the particular, like things like July 4th, things like that. You know, they're not public holidays here in the UK, especially July 4th, because that's Independence Day. And so, of course, in the UK, we would not want to celebrate independence from the UK for the United States. It makes no sense. So for the most part, Americans have to work those days, but they still acknowledge them, they still celebrate them, they still, have a family dinner and things like that in the evening. I have, as I say, there's a good American contingent in the church that I attend, that I've been a member of for nearly 20 years. And a lot of those actually came over as students and have since decided to seek leave to remain, and have pretty much all got their permanent leave to remain in place in the UK, which is great for them. And some of them have got married here and started families. So it's pretty amazing. But yeah, so, and, I have family in the United States as well. And they, although they are expat from the UK, they still actually celebrate pretty much everything that Americans would do. They even turn up to, July 4th celebrations and that kind of thing. Although they kind of celebrate that more ironically because it's amusing for British people to celebrate that. But but they do it. And so I think it's a great thing to celebrate, to be thankful. Just broadly speaking in general, I think it's a good thing to spend some time to be thankful. And, take a pause, think about your life, think about where you're at and how far you've come, and, just take a look over your shoulder at how far you've come, and, put down a little yardstick and say, hey, I've made it this far and this is great, and celebrate all the victories that you've had, and also all the things that you've had to overcome. And that you have successfully overcome those things. Celebrate those things, think about those things. I think it's a good thing to be thankful. Even if you're not a Christian, so, you're not thanking God for things necessarily because you don't believe in God. That's okay. You can still be thankful. You can say, hey, I've made it this far. This is great. I am thankful that I have made it this far. I think that's a good thing to do. So, and then, you can put that in as a yardstick and go, and this is what I've got to look forward to between now and next Thanksgiving, and you can, renew your strength and go for it. So I think that's a good thing to do anyway, whether you're remembering a particular event in American history, like Thanksgiving kind of does to a degree, or just more broadly in general. So for me personally, because like I say, I have American family, so Thanksgiving is kind of it's not really a massive part of our family culture, but it is a part of our family culture. And so that's kind of led me to, although not necessarily have it as a specific day like Americans do, but I certainly take that particular time of year as they do to pause and to think and to be thankful for successes, be thankful for things that I have overcome, and put a yardstick in and go, this is great. This is how far we've made it down the road. So I like to do that, and it's something I like to do every year. And why not do it at Thanksgiving? Why not? I mean, a lot of people around the world who are American are doing it, so I figure, why not? Does it mean I'm gonna have a proper turkey dinner and everything else? No. For the most part, I have to work that day. And certainly since I've been working for Presonus, I have to work that day because the vast majority of the company is shut down for Thursday and Friday. So I have to do a lot more work than I normally would have to do because I have to do their work as well as my own. And I don't have a problem with doing that. I think that's a good thing, because when I'm off for things like St. Andrew's Day and other public holidays in the UK that they don't get, they do my work for me. So it all kind of works out nicely as far as I'm concerned. So that's Thanksgiving. So enjoy it, my American friends. Have a great time and be restful and thankful. And what I find really, really interesting, now that I've just used be restful and be thankful, there are two places in the UK, two towns that have that as their actual names. So there is a place it's down in Cornwall in the southwest of England, and it's called Be Thankful. I think that's a really interesting name for a town. Call it Be Thankful. And so I've always thought, wouldn't it be fun to live in that town and have an address in that town and people write to me and it just said Be Thankful. I always thought that's quite interesting. And then up here in Scotland, up towards the Inverness area, there's a place there's a place there. It's not actually that big. I wouldn't call it a town. I'd call it a small village, and it's called Be Restful. So there you go. Things to think about. And so, thinking of things to think about. Last show, so we're talking about Sunday's show. I launched, or unveiled, I should say, the Christmas songwriting contest for 2025. And the rules are much more simple than they have ever been. Just by way of reminder, for those of you that weren't around on Sunday, basically, you can largely do what you like. But the idea this year is to write something that tells us about what winter or Christmas means to you. So even if you're not Christian and you kind of just celebrate it culturally, because in the West it's kind of something that we culturally celebrate, what does that personally mean for you? Write something about that, or maybe about your memories or experiences of Christmas over the years. You could certainly do something like that. You'll also get bonus points if you use any of the scales that we have introduced to you over the last several songwriting contests. So you can pick scales from any of the contests that we've done, and you can use them either for part of your song or for the whole thing. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. Instrumentation, up to you what you want to do. Style, again, up to you. Is whatever you want to do. Creativity, I couldn't even say that word properly. Creativity is king. All right, so the songs that are the most creative, the most interesting, and tell us a really interesting story, that's most likely going to be a winner. So aim for that. Aim for, even if you don't write narrative style songs, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to give that a try, to actually write a song that tells a story. So you can invent characters or you can make it personal. Kind of up to you what you want to do, really. You can kind of let your imagination go wild, really, to be honest. And we don't have a lot of time because the closing dates for the contest, because I want to avoid actually getting into Christmas week. So the closing date is going to be December 19th, and December 21st, we will announce the winner. I am hoping to be able to get Rich on the show on the 21st so that we can actually unveil the winner. But failing that, I will unveil the winner myself. But Rich and I will, of course, meet on the Saturday to go through all the entries, and we will choose a winner on that day, and then we'll announce it on the Sunday, either with both me and Rich on the show or just me. We'll see. We'll see how we do. Rich's schedule is probably likely to be quite busy at this particular time of year with his new job. So I want to be kind of flexible with what he needs as much as I possibly can be. So we'll kind of leave that kind of a little bit open-ended, and we'll see what comes out, really. So you may get a surprise. It may just be me, but it may actually be both of us, and we'll unveil the winner on the 21st, and then we will go into Christmas week itself. And so what will that entail? Okay, so what will that entail? I've gone too far forward in my calendar. So the Christmas Eve is on a Wednesday, which ordinarily would be a Songwriting Simplified show. So we will not have a Songwriting Simplified show on Wednesday. Sorry about that, guys. So what will happen is on December 28th, which is a Sunday, we will have the Christmas special. Actually, no, what the dickens am I talking about? The 21st, which is when we're unveiling the winner, that is the Christmas special show. So I will be wearing my Christmas hat, and we'll have the tree out the back and everything, and I'll try and find as many public domain Christmas carols as I possibly can to play, to make the event kind of all Christmassy and everything else. And I'll put a nice Christmas background around the back here. So yeah, the 28th, I will basically be doing Christmas background and Christmas hat throughout the whole month of December. And when we get to the 28th, it will be Sunday Night Live. And then on the 31st, which is a Wednesday, so that's New Year's Eve, we call that Hogmanay here in Scotland. So we will be doing my annual Hogmanay show, which will start at 7 p.m. So it's 1 hour later, 7 p.m. Central. And basically the reason for that is so that I can actually see the New Yearing with my family. And then we'll do the show at 7 p.m. Central. That's 1 a.m. UK, 2 a.m. Central Europe. So if you're in Central Europe, it's going to be 2 a.m. for you. And we will have champagne, and we will have fun, and it may even be a 2-hour show. We will see. So hopefully some of you guys will be around. And for those of you that are in the United States, I will already be in 2026, and I will tell you what it's like. So that's kind of the schedule for December. It's going to be fun. And so for the Songwriting Simplified shows coming up, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into reharmonizing things. So I'm going to talk about reharmonizing in principle, how it works, what you can do, what you should avoid doing. And then we will get into maybe a couple of Christmas carols and how you can reharmonize those in interesting ways. Some of them are going to be more useful than others. So we will look at also, how far you can push the envelope of reharmonization. So we will talk about how you can reharmonize in a very simple diatonic fashion, and all of that reharmonization, by the way, the idea is to, as much as is possible, maintain the integrity of the melody. So we want to avoid having to harmonically or enharmonically alter the melody, so to fit chords or anything like that. So we want to try and keep the melody correct for the most part. It's not always possible depending upon what you're doing harmonically. But that's what we're going to cover, reharmonizing. I've done some reharmonizations already. Last year I did Carol of the Bells, and I did that kind of Mixolydian mode style reharmonization. So this year I'm going to try and find another carol that will work modally and try and do another kind of modal reharm of a carol. A lot of them work because a lot of carol melodies are diatonic, very diatonic, which lends themselves well to Ionian mode, Aeolian mode, because natural minor works, Dorian mode kind of works, and Mixolydian mode probably works the best for reharmonizing a diatonic melody. So we're going to cover those over the whole month of December for Songwriting Simplified. So for once, I will have something semi-planned for my shows. I know I don't normally I kind of make this show more about you guys and answering your songwriting questions, but December it's going to be a little bit different. And if this is something that you like, and you like things to be a little bit more planned, then, maybe I can actually start doing some more planned shows. I'm not going to be able to necessarily plan every single show and provide, a particular talking point or something like that every single show, because it's a lot of work, and I don't always have a lot of time for planning shows, which is why I don't really make a whole ton of videos like I used to. I used to make videos every week. Now I don't really have the chance to make videos every week, so I put videos out when I can, because trying to schedule when I can record them is a little bit difficult. My family life is remarkably busy. I have a daughter who has just signed a contract to a scholarship, a soccer scholarship in the United States. So if that all works out, she will be going to the United States in 2027. But there's a lot of work for her to do between now and then, and there's a lot, therefore, of support and transport around to various events that we have to do for her between now and then. So that kind of adds a layer of complexity to everything. And then, there's the things that my son wants to do as well. So he's just started a band at his school playing drums. So I want to be able to provide some support to that as well. So yeah, life gets complicated. So putting out videos is a bit of a challenge. So I like to keep these two shows as an opportunity for you guys to ask me questions. So let's go through and have a look at the chat and see who's here. Billy is here. Kyle is here. Tony is here, but kind of not. He says he's going to watch this tomorrow. That's fine, because it's a late night for Tony where he is. So thank you, Tony, for dropping by. I appreciate it. Dwayne is here. Stephen Wilson is here. Dave is here. And we got Rich Cresswell. And who else do we have? I think we got Keith here. I think. Rich says, if you want to be added to the songwriting challenge, tag Rich. Yes, Rich, I need to be added to the challenge, please. You know my email address, so that would be great, because I don't think I have been yet. Just Bob is here as well, which is cool. And I'm just scrolling through to see who else is here. I think this might be it, because I think we've only got like 7 people here, which is like terrible for Songwriting Simplified. Partly my fault, because I totally forgot to kind of do any advertising, because I've been out. My daughter had a concert with the National Youth Choir of Scotland, which she's also a part of. So they had their winter concert this evening. So yeah, it's been a late night. As a result, the Walrus is here. He's quoting John Lennon when he says, "So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. I want to reharmonize that song." Yeah, you could. It's not a public domain song, however, so you got to be careful with that, and we may not be able to play it because of, you know, copyright strikes and things, because melody is copyrighted and lyrics are copyrighted. So even if you reharmonize it, I could still run into copyright issues. So don't really want to do that. Good Queen Wenceslas would work. Yes, I actually did a chart for that for my band, my big band. We did a funk version of it, actually. A kind of 4 to the floor funk version, I should say. So it's kind of disco funk version of Good King Wenceslas. I may well actually have to dig out that chart, because it was a fun chart to play. Who else is here? Lars Fan 16 is here. And the Walrus was Paul. Yes, I have heard that. I have heard that said. All right, so if you guys got any questions, we can get into those just now. So if you got questions about songwriting, composing, arranging, music theory, let's talk about that. Like I said, we are going to spend the whole month of December talking about... hello, Matt. Matt is here. We're going to spend the whole month of December talking about reharmonizing and how you can basically take a well-known melody and put new chords to it. Because basically you can harmonize any note with any chord. Any chord from, you know, all the possible types of chords that there are. Let me give you a little example of what I mean, just to kind of whet your appetite. So let's pick a note at random. I have picked a G. So let's have a look at the ways in which I could harmonize just this note and make it interesting. So what do we have? Well, obviously we can do a G major chord. We can do a C major chord. You know, that's fairly standard. We can do a D sus4 as well. We can do a D minor 11, which is kind of what I accidentally alluded to. We can do an E flat major 7, A flat major 7, B flat 13. We can do G over B. C major 7. If we want to get really exotic, we can get into D flat major 7 sharp 11. G minor 9 with D in the bass. We can do C over E. F major 9. How about F7 flat 9? Sorry, F sharp 7 flat 9. We can do B minor 7 sharp 5. We could do C over B flat. A minor 7. What else else can we do? We could do E7 sharp 9, the Hendrix chord. Where else can we go? We could do B major 7 sharp 5. That's an interesting one. That's kind of sounds kind of dark. We can do A7. What else? What else can we do? We can do. I've already done F sharp 7, flat 9. So as you can see, there is a lot of different chords that you can do to harmonize just one single note. So then it's a case of which chords are going to fit best for which notes. And that then also depends upon your harmonic approach. Are you going to be diatonic? What do I mean by diatonic? I mean anything that belongs to the home scale. So C major is diatonic. G7 would be diatonic. F major 7 or F major 9 would be diatonic as well. A minor 9 is also diatonic. So you could just use 1, 5, 6, 4, just to harmonize one note. F minor 11. That kind of sounds a little odd, but that is basically F sharp major 7 flat 9, which is kind of more crunchy because you've got that plus that as well. So it's a little that chord is a little more ugly. So be careful with major 7 flat 9 chords because they are filled with minor ninths in their kind of makeup. So there's lots you can do. If you want to be strictly diatonic. If you want to borrow from other keys, that opens up a whole range of things that you can do. Like, you know, the D flat major 7 sharp 11. Doesn't belong. You know, it's basically flat 2 sharp 11 in the key of C major. And the same with E flat major 7. E7 is another chord that doesn't belong. A flat major 7 is also non-diatonic in C major. B flat 13, non-diatonic. So, you know, you can either go with diatonic or you can go with, you know, not being locked to a particular key center when you're harmonizing one particular note. But it's a good exercise to try and do to find what chords you can harmonize a single note with. Because then that will help you when you start thinking about the melody of a particular song. Because there's different ways in which you can approach a particular melody. So your melody might be very diatonic. Like, for example, Silent Night is incredibly diatonic. And so you can approach that song from a modal point of view, but also from a strictly just a major minor point of view as well. And you can still come up with some very interesting chords, or you can use non-diatonic chords and just come up with some interesting colors that fit the different notes in the melody. There are some really, really great Silent Night harmonizations out there because Silent Night is a really, really terrific song for reharmonizing, especially if you don't think diatonically. If you think outside of the scale and the key center which the song is written in, which is C major, then, you know, you can kind of get into all sorts of exotic and interesting harmony. Dave says non-diatonic chords can be useful as passing chords. Yeah, but not necessarily as passing chords. They can be entirely functional chords as well. Or they can be completely non-functional chords, so they don't even have a function. So they're not a passing chord. They are just a sound. That is another approach that you can take, is taking a chord as a particular sound that is pleasing to the ear. It doesn't progress to something else. There's no logical progression between one chord and the next chord. You're not kind of concerned about that. You are concerned about each chord as its own kind of sonic entity and how that fits the melody. So, I mean, that's where the modal approach will work as well. So I'm not thinking about particular chords. I'm thinking, if I'm doing a modal reharmonization like Carol of the Bells was, I wasn't thinking about what each chord was and how each chord fitted the melody. I was thinking about, this is the scale that I am this is the approach I'm taking to this scale, because it's a diatonic scale for Carol of the Bells. So when you have that in mind, then I just basically make chords that are basically picking notes from the scale and playing them together, and that makes a chord. So it's chords for chord's sake rather than chords that need to progress. So that, you know, in that sense, there is no passing chord. Really, chords are just chords. They provide a harmonic bed. Tritonal substitutions is another great option as well. Again, you got to be careful with how they affect the melody, because sometimes you can end up with flat nines if you are doing tritonal substitutions. But yes, tritonal substitutions is something I talk about a lot on this channel, and particularly on Wednesdays. So they are well worth applying to your music. But again, like I said, don't overdo them, because then they lose their color and they lose their power if you're tritonal substituting everything. It's like, you know, if you think of it in terms of a soccer team, when you're bringing on a substitute, you're bringing on a fresh player who can do the same job as the player that you've just taken off. And maybe, depending upon the state of the game, the player that you introduce has more defensive skills or more offensive skills than the player that you're taking off. So if you think of substitution like that, then you're thinking about substitution as something that is going to have impact on a result, right? And bring actual impactful change. So if you think about tritonal substitution in that way, then you will avoid doing it all the time, because if you do it all the time, it loses its effectiveness. Which is why you never ever see a manager basically substitute every player. Even though there are certain games where there are no restrictions. They can put on as many substitutes as they want. Like in friendlies, you can substitute as many people as you want. A good manager doesn't do that. They make strategic substitutions depending upon the state of the game. So, for example, if one team is behind in the game, they are like, I don't know, 3-1 down, and it's like going into the final quarter of the game, they need to score to either win the game, to basically steal a win from the opposition. So they need to score 3 goals, or to tie the game. And so you want to substitute some of your defensive players for your and bring fresh offensive players onto the park, so that they can then go and, you know, take the offense to the opposition who are leading and try and score 2 goals to tie the game, 3 goals to win it. But you also want to have sufficient defense that you can stop them extending their lead. So you have to think strategic substitution. So this is a good way to apply tritonal substitutions. Don't do them all the time. An exercise that I have for that is the UK national anthem, God Save the King. I nearly said God Save the Queen because I'm still so used to saying God Save the Queen, even though the Queen has been dead now for 3 years. So, the UK national anthem, God Save the King, it's in G major. It's diatonic. There's plenty of opportunities within that melody for tritonal substitution. You can do it almost everywhere. But there are points in the melody where a tritonal substitution does not work. And there are points where it works really, really well and is very effective. So you gotta kind of be thoughtful about how you use them if you want to make tritonal substitutions really effective. So trust me, I will be talking about tritonal substitutions to reharmonize melody as we go through December. Walrus says one of these things is not like the other one of these things just doesn't belong. Okay. I've been leaving notes all over the house for my son and daughter as hints for this book. Oh, okay, cool. Let's see. Kyle, that's hilarious. I wear soft shoes when I approach from behind. Walrus says, I like the harmonization on Because by the Beatles. Yes, really, really interesting chords, actually. And some substitution, not tritonal substitution, but definitely some substitution chords going on. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Keith says we've lost 9 of 12, mate. We cannot bring up football, please. Yeah, we have. It's been a tough first half of the season for Liverpool. Not that we're going to get into football because this is not a football show. However, speaking of football, sorry, Keith. One of the things my daughter has to do for her music technology exam, because she's studying music technology at school, is she has to do a podcast. She has to do a whole podcast episode. She has to write the whole thing. She has to produce it. She has to engineer it. She has to record everything required for it as well, including the one song that they have to have in the midst of the podcast. And so she's doing a particular song, and she's got some musicians at her school, and she's recording them all. She's recording the drums, multi-miking, recording guitar amps, vocals. She's doing all of that, and then she's going to mix it, master it. She's going to add that to her podcast. Plus, the subject for the podcast is, of course, football, because that's the thing that she lives and breathes and thinks about all the time. So that's what her thing is going to be all about. And while she's been doing this podcast, she's really, really got into mixing and mastering and production. She loves it. She absolutely loves it. She so enjoys it. And so one of the things that she wants to do once she leaves school, and she's going on this soccer scholarship to the United States, is she wants to go and study audio and audio engineering. Particularly, I think she wants to get into production for radio and that kind of thing. So hopefully that will also lead to her being able to start her a football show proper, which I think she would really like to do, because she's actually really, really knowledgeable as well. And she's also studying journalism, so she can put the two together. Let's see. If you always substitute, there's not a real substitution, says Juan. Yes, that's exactly the right approach. The because chords are so cool. Standard C sharp minor, C sharp minor, D sharp minor, flat 5. Yeah, so basically it's a 2-5-1 in C sharp minor, and then a 5-1 in D, and then we got to make our way back to C sharp minor. Yep, via, again, a 2-5-1. Yeah, it's really interesting that it does go to the key of D major from C sharp minor, because it's not a relative key. The relative key really should be A major, from C sharp minor. So when you've got those chords, and then you've got A7, and then yeah, they are really, really nice chords. And that little temporary key change to the key of D major via that 5-1. And then we go a little bit dark with this D diminished chord, which does actually surprisingly work as a substitute for chord 5 in C sharp minor, which would be the G sharp 7. And the reason why it works is because we've got chord tones in common, so it is a tritonal substitution. I lied. I said there weren't any tritonal substitution in the chord changes to because. I was wrong, because clearly there is. So I was totally wrong about that. Sorry about that. I'd totally forgotten that temporary key change to D major was there in that song. I mean, admittedly, it's not a song I play a lot, but it is a song I did an arrangement of it years ago for a lassie who was covering that song, and she wanted like a string arrangement to go with her band. So they had already recorded the band part. So I think it was like piano, acoustic guitar, bass, upright bass, and drums. So they already had the rhythm section and the vocals done. So then I just needed to write the strings arrangement to go with that. So I had like three violins, 2 violas, 2 cellos, and a bowed double bass as well. And I put all of those together, and I liked what I'd done. It sounded good, but to me it sounded like there was this big separation between the band and the strings. Like the strings were kind of up here and everything else was down here, so there was this big gap. So I decided to add some woodwinds to it. So I added some clarinets. So I had 3 clarinets, 2 bassoons, and 2 bass clarinets to fill out that mid-range. And then we had ourselves an arrangement. So yeah, I had totally forgotten all about that substitution chord there. Just Bob says, I played a Hohner violin bass over the weekend. It's a Halloween body closed face bass. I noticed how different the bass sounds compared to a solid body. Can you speak about that? I've never played one. I've never played a violin bass, but I do know that they definitely sound different. There's some more mid-range and a little bit more warmth to the sound of the instrument. And because you don't have much body, there's kind of like a lot less there's a lot less wood to actually vibrate and accompany the strings and the pickups in creating the sound of the bass. So they do sound different. They actually sound a little bit more like an upright bass. Now, considering upright bass is where I started, you'd think that maybe I would want to play a Hohner violin bass, but I never have. I've never owned one. I've never played one, not even in a bass shop. I've just never played one. But I have seen Paul play one. I've seen Will Lee, who is another terrific bass player, who plays currently with Ringo Starr's all-star band. And for some of the Beatles songs that they do, he plays a violin bass. And yes, it does sound a little bit more like an upright bass than an electric bass. Very, very interesting sound. But yeah, I've never played one, so I can't speak to how they play. Unfortunately, don't have that experience. Lennon was a genius. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. He wrote some really great melodies. He was not a great piano player. He could play, but he wasn't really that great a piano player. Paul McCartney is the better piano player of the two of them, but he could play. But here's the interesting thing about John's approach to piano playing was his harmonic sense on the piano was more unconventional than Paul's. Paul's harmony on the piano was much more, triadic, much more diatonic. John's was a little bit more interesting, a little bit more experimental on the songs that he wrote on piano. So really, yeah, I would definitely agree that Lennon was a genius. He wrote some absolutely beautiful melodies, but he also wrote some really great lyrics. I like a lot of the songs where more of the lyric is by John than it is by Paul, although there are a lot of Beatles songs where it's really hard to separate who did what, where they both brought lyrics, melody, and chords to the song. In much the same way, it's actually really hard to do that with a Steely Dan song, to actually figure out who actually brought what to which song, who brought the melody, who brought the chord changes, who brought the arrangement, and that kind of thing. Very, very hard to pick Donald from Walter in particular Steely Dan songs. You can't really do it. And Larry Carlton has the best explanation for this, because Larry Carlton spent probably more time with Walter and Donald than anybody else that was around the Steely Dan kind of group at the time. Not that there was a band necessarily, but there was a group of musicians who Donald and Walter called upon regularly, and Larry was probably the closest to Walter and Donald from the musicians' side of things, being that Larry wrote a lot of the arrangements for those classics Steely Dan hits, along with great horn arrangers like Tom Scott, for example. But Larry wrote so many of the arrangements for Steely Dan. So he worked with them very, very closely, knew them both very, very well. And his way of describing Donald and Walter was, it's two guys with the same brain. They're they have the same brain, but it's two people. And, he said, Donald would start a sentence, Walter would finish the sentence, and they both laugh about it. And then Walter would start a sentence, Donald would finish the sentence, and again they would laugh because they had finished the sentence as the other person had intended the sentence to be. That's how close Walter and Donald were, and so you can see that come through in their songwriting for sure. Juan says, I know it's not a regular songwriting question, but since I now have Studio One 7, is there a way to learn Nashville notation? Yes, there is. Nashville numbers are in Studio One 7. So I will very quickly show you this. I'm going to have to create a new song for a second. Give me a second to do this. And then I'll show you this. So let's go grab some kind of instrument. I don't really care which. Let's do presence. Let's do... let's do this. We change that god-awful default color. There we go. All right, let's open the chord track. And let's stick in some chords, or at least some C majors. All right, now let me go and share the screen now that I've set all of that up. So the Nashville numbers for chords is now available in the chord track. So if you are somebody that is used to that, you can now do this. So how do we access it? Because at the moment it doesn't look like it, does it? Well, You can't select it from the chord selector. So what you need to do is select the chord, open the inspector, and then you'll see this chord display option, and it says regular, numbers, or Roman numerals. So if you are a jazz guy like me, you might want to use Roman numerals. All right, now obviously this just says 1, so I can change that to chord 5. And you'll see the chord selector doesn't actually display the numbers in the selector, but it does in the middle bit here. So that's chord 5. We'll do chord 4. No, we'll do chord 4 major, I don't know, major 9, sharp 11, just for the sheer shits and giggles. And then we'll do this one as chord 5, 7. Let's make this 13, sharp 11. There we go. So you can get into quite exotic chords, but let's say you don't want to do that. You want to do Nashville numbers. So you just select numbers. Now look what happens to the chord track. So we got 1, 5, 4, 5 with their same extensions as we had before, and you'll see it here in the center of the chord selector. So cool thing here is if I just double click under here, drag that along like that. Now these are going to sound awful because the chord track does everything in root position. I'm going to grab all of those. I'm just going to drop those down onto this instrument here so that we've got something to look at. I'm going to close the inspector because we don't need it right now. And I am going to select all of those. I'm going to press G to make that into one event. We're going to double click this and we're going to see that we've got all of these chords in root position. But then if I go to the score editor here, and if I go track here, and if I go apply track preset, this is definitely a keyboard instrument. So we want electric piano. And we've got all these chords all horrifically in root position. But what I can do is I can go back over here and I have access to the harmony wizard. So we can open the macro toolbar and we got the harmony wizard. And we can invert some of these chords. So let's, for example, select this chord here. Let's move that inversion down a wee bit. Let's do the same here. We'll drop that one down a bit. And this one definitely needs to go down quite a bit as well. Maybe one more. And this one, I don't like that voicing. So we can transform this, change chord voicing. We can do drop chord voicing. Let's do drop 2. There we go. That might actually work a little bit better. And this one, I'm going to reharm as well, or revoice, I should say. Okay, there we go. That sounds interesting, to say the least. But we've got our Nashville numbers. We've got our chord changes. Let's just loop this a wee bit. Let's go back over here, and we can see our chords here. Now, if we do, and we check this box here, we can now see the Nashville numbers on the top. You can have this as Nashville numbers, or you can change this. So let's say we want Nashville numbers at the top here, but in here, in the chord display for the chord track, sorry, for the score editor, we want just regular chords. All right. But what we want is symbols, because we are jazz people, because we like that kind of thing, because we're using some extended jazz harmony here. And so I can have the Nashville number system at the top in the chord track, and I can have a different system here in the score editor. Very, very handy indeed. And then I can go back over here, or I can get the symbol panel open if I want to start adding some things in here. I can also go over here. We don't have a bass line, so let's create a bass line from the chord track. And then we can go back over here, and now we should have some bass notes. So it should sound a little bit better. Yeah, we are distorting a little bit. I can hear that. Let me go over to the mixer. Yeah, we've clipped. We have clipped. That's fine. Let's just turn that down a little bit. Yeah, we clipped a bit again, but it's not so bad. It's not actually distorting this time. All right, so there you go, folks. Let's go back over here. So we've changed the voicings a little bit in the note editor using Harmony Wizard. Harmony Wizard is fantastic. Lucas Rosiska makes this. I highly, 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 highly recommend you go and buy this from Lucas. You will not regret it, especially if you're not necessarily a Harmony Wizard yourself, but you want to learn how to do things like reharmonizing. You want to learn how to revoice chords. You want to learn how to harmonize a melody. For example, this thing will help you. For example, you can just put in a melody, and you can use this option here, harmonize melody with, and you can put in the chords from the chord track, and you can have them above and below the melody. You can have them wide, you can have them wider, or you can use this create chords option here, and you can even harmonize the melody with a fourth above, a fifth above, power chords, triads, 4-note chords, double intervals. So there's lots of different ways in which you can insert chords. You can add a second voice to a chord. You can stack chords. So you can do 4-note chords, skipping, or you can create your own. So there's actually loads you can do with the Harmony Wizard. This is not meant to be a Harmony Wizard advert, but if you want to do reharmonizations of Christmas carols for Christmas, like I'm going to do, and I'm going to talk about reharmonization, then this is definitely a must for that kind of stuff. So Juan, there is your Nashville number thing, and you know what? You can open the chord display, and it will even show you the Nashville numbers in the chord display, which I think is awesome. And we can make that a little bit bigger, and we can play this again. All right, so there you go. Nashville numbers in the chord track, Nashville numbers in the chord display, but not in the score editor. We've got something a bit more conventional in the score editor, but you can have the same. So this is a cool little feature where you can have a different chord display in different places in Studio One, wherever you want them to go. So if you're sending this out to non-Nashville musicians, then you can give them this. If they are Nashville musicians and they use the Nashville number system, you can give them chords with the Nashville chords, the Nashville numbers. Works just fine. All right, so let me go back over here. And let me just see if we've got anything in here. You guys are making some hilarious jokes about numbers. That's very, very funny, you guys. That chord pattern has some serious 80s power ballad vibes. Yes, it does. You can use the power chords there. That D sharp note's got to go. No, it doesn't. It's part of the chord. It's part of the alterations to the chord that I selected, so it stays. Sorry, Dave. Anyway, that is us done for the show. Thank you very much for your questions, everybody. So looking forward to hearing your entries. So get cracking on the Songwriting Challenge songs that you're going to do. I'm really looking forward to hearing those entries. reach out to Rich. Make sure you are connected with him and get yourself added to the workspace so you can put your songs in there for everybody to hear, and also for everybody to help you with. You can ask for commentary, you can get feedback, and everybody will help everybody else produce the best songs they can, and that'll make it even harder for me and Rich to decide who the hell is going to be the winner. All right, so we will call that a wrap, and just so that you know, because I nearly forgot to mention this. I'm an idiot. I so nearly forgot to mention this. So we will run over just for this. Friday is the UK Studio One meetup. So if you want to carry on talking Studio One, come join us then. It starts at 8 p.m. GMT. So that's 8 p.m. UK time. So count back 6 if you are in the central time zone of the United States. Do the math. You can work it out how far you are away from GMT, or you can look it up on dateandtime.com to find what time that starts. And we tend to go on for a prolonged period of time, not the 2 hours that it says on the event page. So if you think, hey, I'm going to be a couple of hours late, fine. We will more than likely still be on. It will run late into the night because I am a crazy Scot, and that's just what we do. The UK Studio One meetup holds the record for the longest meetup, which is 11.5 hours. Nobody has beaten that yet because nobody is stupid enough to beat it. And then Sunday Night Live will be on Sunday the 30th of November. And then after that, on the 3rd of December, there will be no Songwriting Simplified because I won't be here. I will be in Hamburg, Germany. So we will start on the 2nd week of December. So you'll only get like a couple of weeks of stuff on reharmonization from me. Sorry about that. But it's going to be fun nonetheless. So I'm really looking forward to diving into talking about reharmonizing and ways in which you can actually do it and give you some methodologies. Should be fun. So until then, folks, I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Have a great time. Don't eat too much. Don't drink too much. And don't talk to strangers, especially if their name is Sheila. And I will see you on Friday or Sunday, whichever you're going to be around on. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Good night.